My question in the midst of this Afghanistan tragedy, this catastrophe, where is Lloyd Austin? You may not even know who he is. He's allegedly the Secretary of Defense under the Biden administration. I refer to him as the big dummy. Where is he? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, there have been press conferences over the past week, 2 weeks now, regarding America's pullout of Afghanistan. And the bombing that recently took place, 170 Afghan people killed, 13 Marines killed. Recently, there have been 5 rockets fired from truck-launched vehicles by ISIS-K into the Kabul airport. And allegedly, there have been a couple of drone strikes by the American forces against the ISIS-K. We don't know exactly how effective they were. And there have been press conferences every day, sometimes 2 or 3 per day, but none by the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense is the Secretary of Defense. That is to say, he ought to be the spokesperson out there, out front, telling us what's going on. We haven't heard from him. Haven't seen hide and a hair of him. Admiral Kirby, who was the Pentagon spokesperson, has been out there every day, hours upon it. Gene Psaki, who was press secretary for the Biden administration in general, been out there every day. General McKenzie of Sitcom has been out there every day. The general of Northcom has been out there every day. Where is the big dummy, Lloyd Austin? We don't know. He's silenced. While tens of thousands of Afghanistan people have died and will die, the Secretary of Defense is missing in action. Where is he? Kirby, McKenzie, Jen Psaki, and others should not be carrying the weight of asking questions about how defended America is or is not in this perilous wartime withdrawal in Afghanistan. Where is the big dummy? Where is he? Let me tell you something about this man, this General Austin. He has made the worst military blunder in American history, no doubt about it. He is the one that suggested to Joe Biden, my time Biden, to do what is referred to in General Austin, Secretary of Defense Austin's terms, a quick, fast, lightning speed withdrawal. Get everybody out in 5 days. Get all the troops out in 5 days. Leave all the equipment behind. Leave all the military equipment, the helicopters, the tanks, the rifles, the ammunition, the munitions, the airport, the food, the services, the embassy, all of the carpet, the curtains. Leave everything out in 5 days, including leaving all of the American citizens behind and the more than 100 to 200,000 potentially Afghanistan members who should have given SIV, special immigrant visas, to get out as well, because they helped America over the past 20 years with interpretation and a ton of other things. And they're hated by the Taliban, not to mention all the women over the past 20 years who have come up now as reporters, as bankers, as industry people, where in Afghanistan, women could not leave their homes unless escorted by a man. But they've become leaders, they become political people, they become, if you will, business persons, they become reporters, and now they've got to go back into the dark shadows because America is leaving, taking all of our forces out. Because the big dummy, Lloyd Austin, said that's the way to do it. How are you going to take everybody out? How are you going to take everybody out and leave American citizens there? Don't make any sense. And I mean, listen, you can say, Pastor Manny, I'm piling on or I'm making accusations. No, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it that the Secretary of Defense told Biden, and Biden followed through with taking all of the military people out first before you get the American citizen. You're actually card carrying, born in America, born on the bayou America, born in the USA Americans who were going to be left behind. The big dummy. And Biden went for it. Now you can't find him. We don't know. He hasn't said a word, hasn't given us any account as the Secretary of Defense. of our nation, haven't given us any account whatsoever. It's the worst military blunder in the history of all military activities, including the Bay of Pigs with John F. Kennedy. There have not been one, including the Iran-Contra issue with Ronald Reagan, and including the attack at Pearl Harbor, where many people believe that Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the president of America at the time of the Japanese attack against Pearl Harbor, that he knew that Roosevelt knew that the Japanese were coming, but he needed to let them strike Pearl Harbor in order to justify going into the theater of war against Japan, while at the same time going against, and gave him also entree to enter into the war against the Nazis in Germany, in Europe. And so people died. A lot of people said that Roosevelt knew, but that wasn't a blunder. It was a tactical, if you will, decision. But this was the worst military blunder in history done by the big dummy, Lloyd Austin. And, the other thing I want to say is that we need to call out the racist LGBTQ press people. The entire press, I don't care if it's Fox News, they can say, Tucker Carlson can say he's conservative, but I believe the boy is. I believe he got a broke wrist. I believe he got sugar in his tank. Tucker Carlson, look at him. Anyway, but all of the press have refused. They have refused to call out the fact that this Afghanistan blood is being spilled because a secret about, or there is a so-called black man who they want to protect his reputation. So they won't use their news nose. They won't use their nose for news to ask the question I just asked. Where's Lloyd Austin? And why did this decision, and more publicity about this decision needs to be raised in the American public, that Lloyd Austin told Joe Biden to take all the troops out in quick, slick, in a hurry before getting the American citizens out. And Biden did it. But they don't want it to, he's a black man, and we don't want to talk about the black people and the black man Secretary of Defense, or the first black secretary, well, not the first black Secretary of Defense, but the black man Secretary of Defense. Colin Powell was set up the same way with that whole business of, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. What is it when you get these black secretaries of defense? What is it? These blunders. But even that blunder was not as bad as the big dummy blunder. Well, let me see now. I absolutely got to tell you the truth. They're both pretty big, pretty, but they're both blunders made by big dummies. I have to tell you this, that I hold the press accountable for conspiracy with black people to cover the inadequacies of Lloyd Austin by not actually reporting this. They're not going after this. They are not informing the American people. While many Afghanistan women many young girls are going to be raped like you ain't never seen before. They're going to throw them back into a hole. The whole nation's going to go dark. And while the so-called liberal press, and whether it's Fox News, Fox is as liberal as anybody else, don't let anybody, they just got a different agenda. They got a different they got a different cup of orange juice they want to sell you. They're selling lemonade. They got a different lemonade stand, but they liberal lemonade. Their lemonade stand is just as liberal as a CNN lemonade stand. They're both selling lemonade. But for them to not bring to accountability Lloyd Austin's blunder and Joe Biden going for it, thousands upon thousands are going to die. And women are going to be treated worse than barbaric there in Afghanistan. And I think the press needs to be called out. I think the press needs to be brought on task. Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and all of them. Because they're not defending women and their rights there in Afghanistan by bringing us the truth. Now, they get some ancillary this is what's going to happen to them. And we didn't have to take the troops out of Afghanistan. Troops could have remained in Afghanistan until Jesus comes back. 2,500 troops was all that was there 3 weeks ago, and there were no problems, no deaths, nobody died. Nobody died in Afghanistan since 2011 when only 2,500 troops. We got over 35,000 troops on the 38th parallel that have been there since 1953, and the armistice and the signing of the peace treaty between South Korea and North Korea. And still, North Korea and South Korea are still at war, and America is still a participant with 35,000 troops and air bases in South Korea to defend South Korea against North Korea. Been going on since 1953. Why do we have to take those 2,500 troops out of Afghanistan? Except in my earlier statement, to cover up the deal that's made to hide the truth about Obama's activity, or the CIA's covert activity in Afghanistan during the years of during their time of their campaign of war against the Soviet Union. So because of Obama, no troops, not one soldier will be left. We've got troops in Germany. We got troops in Panama. They still remain in Panama, even to this day. Why? Because they want to cover up for Obama. So no troops were left in Afghanistan. I want to hear from the Secretary of Defense. I don't want to hear from Gene Psaki. I don't want to hear from General McKenzie. I want to hear from the horse's mouth what's going on in Afghanistan. And I want to ask the American press and the American people in general, and everybody's got a blog or got an Instagram account or a Facebook account, post this video. Let's find out why we're not hearing anything from the Secretary of Defense in this 2 week of absolute horror upon America and lives that are being lost. We want to know, where is the big dummy? Lloyd Austin. Me. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant. I want to ask you to come up close for just 1 second. And I want to talk to 3-year and older veterans of the Trust in the Lord Hour, the Open Rewards Prayer Meeting, the Manning Report, and the Pulpit of Power, those 4 ministries that we do every week, producing at least 20 different ministries or sermons every week. If you are a 3-year or older veteran, by old I mean 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, older veteran of any of these ministries that we do on a daily basis every week, and you are not a supporter, you've not joined with the ministry to give to pledge your support and your alignment with what we've been teaching. My question is why? You've had 3 years to observe us. You've had 3 years to listen to us on a daily basis, all weekend, all day long, any hour of the day. We're broadcasting. You've had 3 years to watch our various successes. You've 3 years to watch our ups and downs. You've had 3 years to listen to the tenor or the consistency of what we have said, whether we are consistent or whether we're all over the chart in what we do and what we believe. You've had 3 years to watch people around us who have made the commitment to join with our ministry and church and to financially support it. And by the way, I want to give another shout out to Brother Jesse Munoz out there in San Bernardino, along with Goldfinger, who is just extraordinary giver, and others that do extraordinary giving to our ministry. My question is to you, if you are a 3-year veteran or older, why haven't you joined? Why haven't you committed? And I suppose some of the reasons would say, well, Pastor Man, I belong to another church. And why? How could you, after 3 years, hear me teach about the Sabbath, about righteousness, about the tribulation, and listen to me faithfully as you do, and still go sit up in another pastor's face? How could you be? It's like a woman sleeping with 2 men. One she likes during the week and the other she likes on the weekend. It's hypocritical. How could you do that? I mean, essentially, you started 3 months ago. I can understand. Well, it may take you some time to evaluate. It may take you some time to look at me, to discover. who I am. You say, well, Pastor, that's not that I don't belong to another church or ministry. I'm with you. But there's some things you say I like, and there's some things you say I don't like. Why? Why is it that you've made a decision that there's some things that you don't like are stronger than the things that you do like? I am not a psychiatrist, but I am an analyst. And I have to tell you, I analyze the world, understanding. The understanding and wisdom tells me this, that if there are things that a person such as myself that I am saying, there is no room to disagree with what I am saying, unless your purpose is to find something to disagree with. Let's say, for instance, you say, well, I like the fact that you talk about Obama, but I don't like the fact that you talk about Trump. Let's say, for instance, you're one of those, right? Well, the purpose, it isn't that you just like what I say about Obama, but don't like what I say about Trump. What it is that you are looking for a reason to support Trump. It isn't that you don't like it. It's just that you don't like the fact that I'm saying something about him. It isn't that what I'm saying is wrong. Let me put it that way. It isn't what I'm saying is wrong or indifferent. You know it's right. But you've lived your life, or you've come up, or you've been raised with a doctrine that you can really live in a false reality. That's where you are. You've been raised in a doctrine that you can live in a false reality. That doesn't say you can like the truth about Obama, but you don't like the truth about Trump. And it's the same truth. It's the same truth. There's no difference. But because you have been indoctrinated to live in a false reality, you are really a person who needs psychological debriefing. But trust me, there are zillions of people around the world who live that way. There are people who know what I'm saying about Trump or Obama is right. They know it. But they choose to ignore it based on the fact that they find a reality that isn't true, and they've settled in there. Say, that's one of the reasons why I've not made a commitment, because, I don't like the fact, I wish you would support what I support. But the truth of the matter is, then why do you come? You've given 3 years or more of your life to listen to me? 3 years of your life to listen to me? And you're not tired of listening to me yet? And you've given 3 years of your life, and over the past 3 years, your life has been greatly upgraded. You've learned, you've been educated, you've been enlightened. And let me say this to you. If you make the commitment, say, well, Pastor, I'm joining with you, and I'm going to support, I'm going to do the tithe and offering, I'm going to do the first fruit, I'm going to keep the Sabbath, your life is going to soar. Now listen to me very carefully, and I'm not going to leave you alone after this. Listen to me very carefully. You come as often as you come over the past 3 years because you're being helped. You're being educated. You're being enlightened, right? Right. But the thing that you like, whether you say, well, I like what you say about Obama, but I don't like what you say about Trump. You do the same thing with the Word of God, such as you like the things I say, the teachings that I say, the way I explain the Bible, the way I break it all down and make it clear. But when it comes to things like money or tithing and offering or the Sabbath, well, that is also true, but because of your false reality, because you really need a psychological debriefing, because of your false reality, you choose not to believe the tithe or the first fruit or the Sabbath. Now, it isn't that it isn't true. It's as true as all the other things I've said. But you live in a false reality where you try to ignore the truth about the tithe, and so you don't do it. But everything else I say is good to go. Everything I ever say is good to go, good enough to share with your friends. It makes you laugh. It educates you. It enlightens you. But the tithe, well, and the full commitment to the ministry, well, the first fruit offerings, well, the Sabbath, that's all true as well. But you have chosen, and you've been raised and indoctrinated to have a dual reality, which is dangerous. Jesus said this, and I'll leave you. He said, I would rather you be the hot or cold. but not lukewarm. You're lukewarm. You have a dual reality. He said, if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out of my mouth. I would rather you be completely stomped down against Pastor Manny, trying to take him down. Be fully against him. Be against him with all of your strength. Or be fully for him with all of your strength. But don't be in the middle, somewhere lukewarm. You're better than to be spit out of the mouth of Jesus if you're lukewarm. So what's it going to be? You're going to make the commitment and grow and be even greatly better blessed, or you're going to continue to walk in the lukewarm spit of the mouth of the Savior. I'm James David Manning, everybody. I'm the Lord's servant.